children.
Lowe's has all the supplies you need to get your home spring ready, inside and out. Shop Ego, the #1 rated brand in cordless outdoor power. Plus, renew for the season with select cleaning essentials for under $10. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Lowe's, we help, you save. While supplies last, selection varies by location.
Visit your nearby Lowe's on East Arquez Avenue in Sunnyvale.
95.3 WBCK now presents Coach's Corner, live from Lakeview Ford. For over 6 decades, this has been your #1 source for all local sports information. Coach's Corner is proudly presented by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now, here's your host, Bill Broderick.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, in the big chair once again on WBCK for another week of Coach's Corner, coming to you live from downtown Battle Creek at Lakeview Ford on the Motor Mile. For more than 6 decades, Coach's Corner has been talking to the city high school coaches about the week in sports, and we will be talking to each of the city hoop coaches about this week in hoops. But before we continue, here is the Lakeview Ford Coach's Corner scoreboard. There were games throughout the week as city teams competed in the second season with the start of the district tournament. On Monday, Harper Creek and Lakeview both opened district play with first-round games. Harper Creek saw its season coming to an end with a 48-33 loss to Parma Western. Lakeview's season also came to an end with a 56-44 loss down at Sturgis. On Wednesday, the district semifinals took over as Penfield, Battle Creek Central, and St. Phil opened their tournament season after getting byes in the first round. Penfield held off upset-minded Olivet for a 46-35 win. Battle Creek Central advanced with a 65-58 win over Coldwater. And St. Phil was able to roll past Calhoun Christian 61-33 to earn a spot in the district finals. On Friday, all 3 of those teams played in the district championship game. And in our Battle Creek Enquirer game of the week, Marshall won its 2nd straight district title with a hard-fought win over Penfield. Battle Creek Central lost to Loy Norrix in a Division I district championship game. And St. Phil was the lone city team to win a district this year as the Tigers beat Climax Scots in double overtime. We will be back with our first coach after this commercial. This is Coach's Corner on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Coach BCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner. Here with our first coach of the morning, Coach Robbie Hatton of the Penfield Panthers. Good morning, Coach.
Hey, good morning, Bill.
Hey, Penfield got started in district play this week. You had a bye in the first round, and then you hosted the semifinals at your place, and you had a quality Olivet team coming in, and you were able to hold them off to win that game 46-35. And in that game, Olivet came out determined to try to stop your big scorers. They were double and sometimes triple teaming your leading scorer, Johnny Lake, in the post, and they were face guarding your outside shooter, Calvin Pazins, everywhere on the floor. And Olivet was forcing some other guys to try to step up for Penfield. And that's what happened. You guys had some guys step up, and you guys were able to get that victory.
Yeah, absolutely. Olivet's a good basketball team, very well coached. They had a good game plan coming in, and, our kids really stepped up. Brady Conley had one of his best games of his career. Drayshawn Bailey hit some shots. Peyton Merlington hit some shots. And that's what it took to get the victory of that game, and it was a nice, hard-fought win. They were a very gritty team, so, it was just a good team win.
Yeah, Brady Conley ended up leading you in scoring with 14 points. I think that's probably few times that he led you in scoring this year. He had 2 triples in that game, a couple of big ones when you needed them, and you had those other guys step up that we mentioned. Drayshawn Bailey added 10 points. Johnny Lake ended up with 12, although he only had 2 at the halftime and came back with a big second half for you. Ethan Myers had 9 for Olivet, and Reese Critchlow had 8 for Olivet. And as your defense kind of shut them down a little bit, Olivet ends the season at 16-8, a real good team. And that sets you guys into the rest of the district. But those first district games can be challenging, and you guys met that challenge and you got through that. And is that part of that, maybe the low scoring there, that it's a tough game to play in that first game of the district?
Yeah, I think it was, an unfamiliar opponent, not really sure what they were going to run against us. They've shown zone, they've shown man, they showed a press all year. So, just repping a lot of things at practice to get ready for all of that. Then kind of taking it, in the moment to see what they were going to do. So I think that might have been a little bit of a part of it, but, the other part is just, execution.
And that you guys got that win, so that sends you on your way. And the big goal for you was to get to that district final game on your home floor. And you knew at that point, because Marshall had won the earlier game in that semifinal, that you were going to get Marshall in the district championship game. It was going to be the third meeting between the two teams that shared the Interstate 8 Conference Championship this year. And it was a back-and-forth, grinded-out Clash of Titans situation there, and Marshall was able to hold off and win that game 59-56. But you got to give you guys a lot of credit for being in that game the whole time. You got down 11-0 to start the game, fought back, nearly tied at halftime, and then you guys were in it all the way. And talk about that fight that you guys showed in the first half.
Yeah, they came out, like I said, they came out really throwing haymakers, trying to get the knockout blow early. And, part of that was just on lack of execution for us. We spent a lot of time talking about what to do on their screens, and, we just didn't execute right away. So, but you know what? Kudos to the kids. We slowed it down, called a timeout, talked through it, got everybody on the same page again, and we were good. And then we battled back. We had resilience, and, and a couple bounces just didn't go our way. Couple, unforced turnovers that were huge. But you know what? Nothing but positivity for our kids right now. They showed a lot of heart, a lot of grit. A lot of just. It was a crazy atmosphere last night, and we battled for 32 minutes. And as a coach, you can't ask for anything more than that.
You guys really picked it up on the defense in the late part of that first half, and slowed them down big time, and you're able to cut the lead to 30-28 at halftime. And then you came out in the second half and started to make your push. Drayshawn Bailey had a driving layup to tie it at 37-37, the first tie of the game. And then you guys took your first lead of the game at 43-42 on a basket by Peyton Burlington with 7 minutes left in there. And then you guys actually had a 5-point lead. Calvin Paysons had a big triple up 48-43 with 6:05. Marshall fought back. And then at the end of the game there, like you said, it was back and forth. Calvin hit another huge three, a real deep three to get you in by 1 point with 11 seconds left, and then Marshall had made the last play of the game to go up by 3 and made you guys have to take a half court or 3/4 or 1/4 court shot to try to tie it, but it didn't go down. But talk about playing Marshall for a third time, two really good teams and two teams that know each other very well, and like you mentioned, it was a heavyweight battle, and you guys were both taking punches, and you guys both stood there and took all those punches and kept it going.
Yeah, absolutely. When we got up 5, we were feeling pretty confident, and there was a play right there that they missed a shot, and we had two guys kind of look at each other, waiting to see who was going to grab the rebound, and then we turned it over right there, and that was a big turning point for us. It kind of really gave them a chance to come back, and then right after that they got an and one and made it a 2-point game, and now we're back in the game. So it just, like I said, a couple bounces didn't go our way, and right there at the end we're down 1. We can't give up that long pass there, but but we got a chance to tie it at the end, and I mean, for a second I thought that shot was going to go in. I mean, it was right on point. Our Johnny's shot there at the end. So. But no, like I said, our kids battled. They were resilient. They fought hard all the way through. It's kind of been our MO all year is, hey, we're going to fight and fight and fight. And, like I said, we fought the whole game, all 32 minutes.
Peyton Burlington led you with 14 points. Drayshawn Bailey and Johnny Lake each had 13, and you guys end the season at 18-6. Marshall advances to go play in Division II regional. And we'll talk a little bit more about the rest of the season and those seniors when we come back for our final show next week. But the idea that you guys put together a tremendous season and back-to-back league championships with this group, and the idea that you guys don't have anything to hang your head on in terms of this season, and you guys fought to the very end, and you have to be proud of this group. Is that correct?
Absolutely. This senior class, we've had 36 wins in 2 years, it's a lot of wins in basketball. And, ultimately, we wanted to win that district title and, hopefully make a run into regionals. But so they're going to have some disappointment about, that moment, and that, but they have nothing to hang their heads at. We really bonded as a team. We grew, unfortunately in sports, there's a winner and a loser, and, we didn't have enough last night, but we gave it our all. So, credit to Marshall. Wish them the best of the luck in the regional, and we'll be rooting for the I-8.
And before we go away, talk about that atmosphere last night. That was a full crowd on both sides. Both stands were packed. The chants were heavy on either side. Both fan bases were trying to outdo the other, and since COVID, that's been rare a lot of places, but it came to fruition at Penfield last night, and that had to be good to see as a basketball fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I looked around, and I remember talking to Mr. Steele right before the game, and I said, this is what high school basketball is about. Win or lose tonight, I said, this is an amazing crowd, an amazing atmosphere. Hopefully something the kids will take with them for a long time. It reminded me of the old days when I was back in high school and people would travel everywhere. And, I don't think there was a seat to be had last night. People were standing up. That's how packed it was. So, great crowd, great atmosphere, on both ends, and, unfortunately sometimes in this world you see things get a little crazy, and both crowds last night were, they were great supporting their team, not really pointing fingers at anybody else, just, hey, support our school. And, it was great to see that friendly rivalry.
All right, Coach. We will talk about we'll wrap up the season next week when we get our final show and talk about some of those seniors that are going away, and I'll look ahead to next year. So thanks for calling in this morning, Coach, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Bill.
We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
On 95.3 WBCK, proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner. We're here with our next Coach of the Morning, Coach Matt Bowling of the Harper Creek Beavers. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Bill.
Harper Creek opened district play this week as well, and you guys had a game on Monday night. You had, one of the first games of the whole state. You had that 5:30 game on Monday night over at Penfield. Played a Parma Western team that you saw twice during the season. Actually, you saw them in the last week of the regular season, so they were real familiar with you. And you came up short, losing 48-33, and playing a team. You had that bugaboo that a lot of teams kind of face this time of year. You're playing a team for the third time, and you guys know each other very well. And how much did that kind of play into that game?
Well, I think that had some things to do with it for sure. But I think just we couldn't find a rhythm that night. And the big thing that really hurt us, in my opinion, was the two quick fouls that Dylan picked up. And I think maybe he made at most played 2 or 3 minutes in the first half. So we really couldn't find a rhythm. And then because they are so familiar with us, they did a good job of keying on Keeson when he came in Dylan's spot, and did a good job of taking him away too. So, and then another thing that happened early in the game was Maddox, about halfway through the quarter, rolled his ankle and then spent the other 4 minutes, over on the side getting taped. So it was just kind of an off-balance, tough start for us. And we never really recovered from that, even though I felt good going into half because, we've talked about it. The first game of districts is always your hardest with the nerves and, the tournament situation, and every possession is just so much more crucial, just means more in those situations. and we survived it. We were down 2, and we just didn't recover in the second half.
Yeah, your 33 points in the entire game was your lowest offensive output of the season, and that probably had a lot to do with those guys being out in that first half. You mentioned that a couple of times. Rhythm was so important in basketball, and you guys just couldn't get going, and it felt like you're going uphill the rest of the time. After that, maybe you're walking a little bit of mud.
Yeah, I mean, everything was just so hard for us, and I mean, we had good looks. We went back and watched film. We had a bunch of looks inside of 6 to 8 feet that we just missed as usual. A little more often than that night, but we had a bunch of good looks by a bunch of different guys, just left shots out there, and that's tournament basketball, and the game slows down. So the efficiency, you have to make sure you're kind of efficient. We shot decent from the free throw line. We shot pretty well, but that was about it. We couldn't get anything going and sustain anything. And they made plays whenever we felt, we were climbing ourselves back into it. They made a play, whether it was a banked-in shot or, just some kind of runner. They made plays, so credit to them for doing it.
Yeah, it was 17-15 at halftime, a low-scoring game on both sides, and then it was still, close after 3 quarters, 28-24. They finally pulled away a little bit with a three-pointer in the fourth quarter and went up 10. They had a guy in the middle, gave him a little bit of a size. He's not the biggest guy in the league, but against your team, he gave a little bit of size and could post up a little bit, and he gave you a little bit of trouble there in the paint.
Yeah, he uses bodies well, and to be frank about it, he finishes.
Yeah.
I mean, he finishes. So when we're even with size and those types of things, I mean, they just finish. I thought Gavin Chapman played pretty well for us, coming off the bench and doing some good things. And the other part that when you step back and reflect, and I haven't talked about it all season, and I refuse to till today, is that we played with 3 sophomores and all year, and they got gradually better. But I didn't want to talk about that or make that an excuse. But the reality of the situation is we were fairly young in several spots, and we grew as the year went on with them.
And even the seniors that you had 4 seniors, but even them only really Dylan played a lot of the minutes last year. The other ones are mostly role players because you had that senior-laden team last year that won the league title. A lot of minutes for a big senior group that you had. That those seniors last year played 3 years all together and were ready to play all together in their senior season. And you had a lot of guys that kind of were waiting their turn. So along with those sophomores that had to play, you might have had some seniors on the roster, but those guys didn't have a ton of varsity minutes, and that had a lot to do with the kind of team that you guys had to grow throughout the season, and then maybe playing from behind a lot during the year.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely fair. We had guys that needed to get some minutes in a different role, but that's kind of how that went. But we did grow as the year went along, and that was good to see. And our juniors came along as well. So we'll have probably 8 returners back next year, and our seniors battled all year long, and they led by example. Can't say enough about what kind of quality human beings they are, the type of guys we had. I mean, I didn't really want to see this end based on, not just because you love coaching, but we had a great group of kids. Win, lose, or draw, they came to work and worked hard every day and gave us everything they had. And very proud of them for that and the high character they have and the families they came from. Going through the adversity we had this year, that speaks highly of all of them as well. And they're just a bunch of good guys, and we'll miss their character.
And we'll break that down a little bit more next week when we have our final show. We'll talk about those seniors and say goodbye to them, and talk about what you have coming next year. Also, next Saturday in this game, Maddox McCarty had 15 points to lead you, and Harbor Creek ended the season at 8-15, and the fact that you guys played a Parma Western team for the third time and came up a little bit short. Maybe a little surprising to you and the coaching staff that was going to happen. Right?
Well, we really didn't see that coming. I mean, I thought they played pretty good basketball against us the first 2 times. We had some adjustments made for them, and when we got to those adjustments, when we ran and executed some of our stuff, we got good looks. It just didn't fall. Some of our offensive sets we put in that were there. And the foul trouble and the injury was tough, and then we just never could get our bearings. And like I said, that first game is always the toughest, and I think you could see that too through the course of the week. I know Penfield. Well, that's not even Penfield, but I was going to say that Eden Rapids game there that was right after us. That was in Olivet. That was very low scoring. And some of that first game, you kind of have to work out the jitters in the first half there, and that's all part of it. So, that's something. Like I said, I thought maybe our young guys and our younger guys wouldn't feel that stuff, but it was pretty contagious on Monday night. But that's tournament basketball, and there's nothing better than experience to help you get through that.
And you have a unique perspective here in terms of that, and that Marshall-Penfield district final. That was a good one to watch last night, and you saw both those teams plenty during the year, and that's kind of what you expected, a battle between two of the better teams in the league, right?
Yeah, I fully expected it to come down to a possession here, possession there, and who makes a play, and some intangible things there with fouls and things you can't necessarily control, but there's some breaks along the game, and it didn't surprise me a bit to hear that came down to the last possession or two.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about the Harbor Creek season next week with Coach Bowling when we get back together for our final show next week. Thanks for coming down here, Coach.
Sounds good. Thank you, Bill.
We'll be back with our next Coach in the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Mike. Coach's Corner on WBCK. Brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here with our next Coach in the Morning. We're here with district championship coach Mike Gimber of St. Phil. How's that sound?
That sounds great, Bill.
All right, good. St. Phil got rolling this week in district play. You're over at Climax Scots, and you had the bye, so you played on Wednesday, and you had a familiar foe in Callan Christian, and took care of business fairly easy in that one. You won 61-33, but there is a challenge of playing that first district game and getting things rolling. How did that game kind of start, and did you guys get rolling pretty quickly and then took over that game?
Yeah, no, we got rolling real quick. First possession of the game, Jackson hit a three from the corner. That really got us rolling, and then our defense was just stellar that night. I mean, that was we talked about it at halftime, and then we talked again afterwards. That was our best defensive outing all year, and so it was really promising going into last night. But we jumped on them quick. We were extremely aggressive on both ends of the floor right away, and we kind of pounced on them and just took care of business from there. But yeah, I mean, we really played aggressive that night, and that was a great sign to see.
Well, that was big also because sometimes that doesn't happen in districts, and then you can start that game slow, and even though you're the big favorite, you can find yourself in a battle early on, and before you know it, you're in the fourth quarter in one of those semifinal games, and you're in trouble. So that early lead, you guys can kind of exhale and breathe a little bit at that point.
Yeah, no, that was definitely big. I mean, my biggest concern going into the game was, they just played on Monday night. I mean, granted, they played a tough game on Monday. Was just kind of going out there, get a quick start, and so we can get our playoff legs a little right underneath us real quick. And it seemed to work. I mean, there was times where we don't press a lot, but I was really contemplating leading into the game, like, should we press just to try to get the legs going quick, get some momentum going, and getting everybody mentally activated right there off the rip. But it seemed like the boys were pretty active right away, and so didn't take long for the playoff legs to kick in.
All right, Carter Diswick had 19 points in that game, and
phenomenal game.
Jackson Diswick had 15. Lincoln Diswick and Mike Miller each had 10, and balanced scoring, which is good to see, and that sends you into the district championship game. And there you played another familiar foe, Climax Scots, one of your rivals, and a team you're playing for a third time, and you handled them during the regular season, but you got into this game, and Climax Scots playing on their home court, and they had some momentum early, and that kind of showed. They got up on you fast, right?
They did. I want to say it was 18-6 after the first quarter or something like that. They definitely got up on us quick. We couldn't hit the broadside of the barn, as I'd like to say, when it came to putting the ball in the hole in the first quarter. And so we got down, and we had to dig in. I mean, credit to Ken. He had a heck of a game plan last night for us on the defensive end for them. They were really really locked in, and his boys were really executing their game plan. But that was a dogfight. We had to fight tooth and nail for that one.
And the fact that it went all the way to the end, it went to double overtime. St. Phil wins 67-59. You've been looking forward to this district title for a couple of years, and you have to wait a couple extra periods to finally get it. So that's just kind of maybe ironic a little bit in that way. A double overtime win over Climax Scots. Fought all the way, but you have to be proud of your guys to holding on to that victory.
Extremely proud of the guys. Extremely proud of the three seniors, Jackson Carter and Lincoln Diswick. Just we've worked extremely hard for the last few years together, and it wouldn't have felt right at least not getting one district. Obviously job's not finished. We want to get more, but obviously we had to get that one checked off first. And so extremely proud of the way the guys fought back in. I mean, we had some huge minutes from some guys early in the first half because Lincoln got into foul trouble early. Michael Miller came in there and did a great job when his name was called, and even had great minutes out of all the freshmen who got tossed in there, but specifically Gio Lugo and Caleb Francisco. They really stepped up on both ends of the ball and got aggressive. And then Ryder Weiss, our defensive dog, man, he's a pest. I would not want him defending me, and I gotta imagine next year without Jackson and Carter in the guard room, I'm going to have to hop in practice, and so I guess Ryder gets to bully me next year in practice.
First district title for St. Phil since 2014. That says a lot in itself that you guys got it done when you haven't been able to do it in the past couple of years. It's not an easy district to win, and you guys have got that victory and got to take that trophy home with you. But I'm sure it all kind of run together, but let's try to break that down a little bit. End of regulation, and you guys up and then held on at the end of regulation, if I remember right. Is that how kind of went there?
Other way around.
Okay,
Climax was up during regulation, and then we came back and we made Jack. I believe it was regulation. I tried to watch it back last night, but then I was also watching Lawrence film. But Jackson hit a big three. I believe it was at the end of the regulation. He hit a big three with 30 or so seconds left, and then they didn't get a bucket on the other end, or they had a turnover. I can't remember if the turnover was in overtime or anywho, it's all running together. But no, we had a great look from Carter Diswick there at the end of regulation. It just didn't drop, and then we had a great putback opportunity. Actually, Ryder Weiss got his chin up on the rim and thought he was going to get the tip back in, and it just came off the front iron and out. But yeah.
So then we go into overtime, first overtime, and break that one down for us. It wasn't same scenario there, or the other way around?
That was pretty much a tie one the whole way through. I mean, some defensive stands. I mean, they actually had the lead. They were really meticulous in their half-court offense, trying to milk some clock. I think they probably ran off the first minute and 30 of that first overtime, and so I was really begging for the shot clock there for a while. But yeah, the first overtime was a little bit back and forth. It was a defensive battle. Yeah.
Then the second overtime, you took the lead early in the second overtime, and that's what you needed to kind of get some breathing room, and then that way you can dictate what was going on there.
Yeah, I can remember the second overtime quite a bit better. I actually nodded to the triplets in the huddle between the first overtime and the second overtime. At the beginning of the year, they came to me about a tip-off play, and I turned them with about 15 seconds left before we had to get back out there, and I said, "Run the tip-off play right now." I said, I know what you guys do, but I'm not drawing it up. Do it. So Lincoln won the tipped it to Carter, and Jackson made a beeline straight to the rim, and Carter hit Jackson on a layup. And, getting that lead to start the second overtime, I think that was huge because that gave us the first real sense of momentum. Like, okay, now we're in control. And then we got some good defensive stops there down the line, and then we got a bucket, and then it was a 2-point game, and then, we had possession of it. We were trying to milk the clock a little bit, but we didn't want to, run the clock down completely because there was a minute 45. That was going to be very difficult to do. And then I believe it was Lincoln had a kick out. Jackson got wide open on a three-pointer, and he hit a three to put us up by 5, and then I wouldn't say that put the game completely out of reach, but it definitely gave our guys a little bit more of sense, all right, not necessarily ease, but we got this. It gave them that belief that we have this, and so Jackson knocked it down. Then we got into a little foul situation, and then
hitting the free throws at the
knocks the
end
free throws. I mean, some big free throws, even in a 4-point game. Excuse me. Caleb Francisco, our freshman, we couldn't get Jackson or Carter open off of their press, and Caleb Francisco popped and got open. He got the ball and he got fouled, and then I'm thinking as a freshie going to the line with a 4-point game in districts, I'm thinking, just make one. He made the first one, and then I said, let's get greedy. Let's get two.
Right,
and he made both. So great free throw shooting there down the line by the boys. It was a dogfight. So I'm extremely proud of them right now.
Jackson Diswick had 25 points to lead you in that game. Carter Diswick had 21. And Lincoln Diswick had 12. And you mentioned it last night to me, finally getting that district title, especially with this group that you've had. Felt like a 10-10 gorilla coming off your backs, and it was something you look forward to. You got your division title last year in the conference, but you didn't get the district one. So this year was all about getting that district title, and a little relief and joy at the same time last night, right?
Relief, yeah, a lot of enjoyment too. Relief, big time. I started feeling like I said to my folks, I started to feel like Jim Harbaugh against Ohio State in the early years.
Yeah.
I couldn't get the monkey off my back. But yeah, no, I mean that was the big goal all season long, and just to get it done is just a huge sense of relief. And we've seen our district. Our regional, we like the opportunity that it presents us against Lawrence. We're hoping we can get that one on Tuesday. And then what we're really, really hoping for is a rematch with Colon, because we played two very tough games with them. I mean, we blew leads in both of those games. We really want that rematch with Colon on Thursday for a trip to the quarters on the line. And so, we got to take care of business on Tuesday. But that's what we really want. And that's, we're kind of dangling the carrot out there, a possible rematch with Colon, to get us, a little bit extra motivation for Lawrence. I mean, we're going to be motivated no matter what. I mean, it's do or die time now. But we really want that. We really want that rematch.
That'll be exciting. Last night, Dane Sattler had 20 points for Climax Scotch, and Niall Sattler added 10, and Climax ends the season at 7-15. You're playing Lawrence on a Tuesday, a 7:00 game at Marcellus High School, and Lawrence comes in at 14-10, and like you said, on the other side of that bracket, Colon is sitting there, and Colon got the upset win over Mendon last night, a Mendon team that they had lost to twice in the regular season. So a great win for Colon in that situation, and all about Colon's. But what do you know about Lawrence in terms of that first round game?
Man, I watched. I was up to probably about 1-2 watching film on them last night. They're fast. They're athletic. They do run a 2-3 zone, which is kind of ironic. Our conference, I think everybody for the last few years have been so obsessed with trying to beat Joe Costello that everybody in our conference ran zone, and then Joe retires and everybody runs man. And so, but Lawrence runs a 2-3 zone. So it's like, all right, we haven't seen much zone this year, so kind of got to put some things in on the offensive end. But no, they're fast. They got some athletes. They can shoot a little bit. But I actually like that they play fast, because I think that helps us, because we like to play fast too. And so I don't think it's going to be any game where I'm sitting there begging for a shot clock. But I like our defensive outlook on them. I think we match up pretty well. Obviously we got to take care of business on both ends, but just looking forward to that one. Looking forward to seeing a zone for the first time in a while, and that's going to be fun.
And it'll be fun to be in the regionals for the first time in a while also.
Yeah, that's going to be really fun. That part's going to be really fun.
And we look forward to talking about that next Saturday when we get back together at Coach's Corner. Maybe we'll be talking about a regional championship for St. Phil. That would be a lot of fun.
Love that.
So thanks a lot, Coach, for coming in.
Thanks, Bill.
We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Coach's Corner on 95.3 WBCK. Proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner. We're here with our next Coach of the Morning, Coach Steve Wakeman of Lakeview Spartans. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Bill.
Lakeview opened district play on Monday down there in Sturgis. Took the trip down south a little bit, and you had to play the host team, Sturgis, a team you hadn't seen during the season. When you saw them play in the Chuck Turner Classic against Battle Creek Central, a team that beat Battle Creek Central in that showcase game there over the holidays, and had a little trouble with Sturgis. You lost 56-44. Talk about how that went, and what they gave you trouble with.
So they play a spread out matchup zone and kind of all over the place and trying to trap you a little bit here and there, and just some things that you don't see a whole lot of, as you go through the year. And they play the thing that they do. They're like the old Syracuse. They play it all the time, all year, every game, practice it every day, and so they're really good at it. And it gave us some troubles. We practiced against it, but as the saying goes, you can't always show. You can't run the zone as good as they do because you don't run it, right? And so in practice, it's not exactly what you think you might see. And so they had a couple of long kids up at the top of the zone, a lot of deflections and things. And we started out real well, got the ball in the high post, turned around, jump shots, boom, boom, and then all of a sudden, I think we forgot that guy was. He forgot he was there, but they did take it away a little bit too. And it was kind of the same. After the game, I told guys it's kind of a microcosm of our season. We struggled to score. We played close. We played hard. We played well. We could have won. Ball bounces here. They're a different way, but we just weren't able to we weren't able to actually figure out how to get over the hump.
And in that situation, you guys try to, I imagine you're passing the ball around the perimeter here and looking for some spots in that zone, and the guys are getting a little frustrated because they're not seeing some of those spots. They're not getting the drives that they –
A little frustrated is an understatement, yeah, for
those
sure.
drives that they would like to get. They like to get some drives and get to the bucket or some open jumpers, but those aren't open in that kind of game. And then when that starts going downhill, that is a frustrating situation to be in for a Spartan team that struggled during the year, and that can weigh on your shoulders a little bit at that point.
Well, yeah, and so if they're getting deflections up top, you have two choices: you drive the gap and make them play you, and then pass around them, or you shoot over them. And we picked B too often. We had a couple shots from probably 25 feet, and that's that frustration that you're talking about where. Yeah, I'm wide open. Well, hell, yeah, you're wide open because you're 25 feet away from the basket, But, it's not a knock on anybody. It's just the fact that it's a frustration level that builds up over time of, nothing. When you can't get anything easy, it's tough. And they took away our fast break because they're so methodical with their offense, and they just pass and pass and pass and pass. And then, next thing you know, you're kind of lulled to sleep. And so, it was kind of a perfect storm for them, and I give our kids a lot of credit. They battled just like they have all year long. Gave us a chance, and it wasn't our night.
So you weren't getting those deflections that you kind of lean on sometimes to get the transition game going for you, which you kind of need with the guys that you have this year. You need those those buckets.
And they're so patient with their offense. It seems like they never miss, because they just work the ball till they get a really good shot. And they have a big kid inside who's very skilled. He's a big kid. He's very skilled, and we had to double team him, and because we don't have anybody big enough to match up with him by himself. And he still ended up with 18 points. And then their other kid who we had a bullseye on also had 18 points, and they both scored a lot of points from the foul line. So, when it's hard to run when that kind of game's going on, right? When they're taking all that time, and then they end up at the foul line or scoring. You're always running on a make and not running on a miss very often, and that was frustrating for us.
Nolan Porter had 11 points for you. Tate Newton and Owen Davis each had 8 points, and again the 44 points. That's struggling to get over 50. That's what's happened to Lakeview most of the year, and in that kind of game, you're hoping maybe to turn that around. You needed that big breakout game to give you some momentum for the whole district, and that just didn't happen.
Nope, it didn't.
It didn't happen. That's my unique analysis there.
Yes, that's right. You spent a lot of time with that one.
Yeah,
I can tell.
You scored less than they did, so then you lost.
Yeah. You mentioned Nolan Porter though, and he's a junior. We talked a little bit about him earlier in the season, but he'll be back next year, and he ended up being our leading scorer this year. So we're excited about having him back. He's a funny kid, man. He's a good kid, and we'll miss our seniors. Obviously, they're as they recognized the end of the season on Monday night, it was pretty sad locker room. I mean, they all they've all been around in our program forever, you know, and I some of them we had in camp when they were in third grade, you know, and so as a coach, you start to build relationships with those kids, and they build relationships obviously with each other. And you know, we traveled around in the summer, and they traveled around with some AAU teams and stuff, and you know, Tavion fouled out, I don't know, with a couple minutes left, and I went down to the end of the bench, and he was sitting there. He goes, I can't believe this is over. Right. And as many times as you try to tell them, like, this is a finite thing, right? This is going to end. And so you want to make sure you get everything you can out of it while you're doing it. And I think Tate did. I don't have a question about that. But it was just interesting that it just kind of hit him right there, as he sat on the bench, and like, I'm never going to do this again, you know. And that's
a ton of seniors all over the state that are doing that right now.
Absolutely. And you know, some of them woke up this morning realizing it because they played in a district last night and lost. You know, and so you know, it's like I said, it's a finite process. It always is.
And we'll talk more about that next week in our final show and say goodbye to those seniors, and then look ahead what you have coming back next year and kind of wrap up the season. But I appreciate you, Coach, coming down here.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
We'll be back with our next Coach in the Morning after this break on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Coach's Corner on WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner. We're here with our next Coach of the Morning, Coach Durant Crum of the Battle Creek Central Bearcats. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Bill.
Battle Creek Central was down at that same district with Lakeview down there at Sturgis. You had the bye in the first round, and then you played in the district semifinal against Coldwater on Wednesday, and you came away with a 65-58 win against an athletic Coldwater team, and you guys were up 20-18 at halftime and never gave up the lead from there. Talk about getting that district win in the first time out, and then giving you guys a taste of victory in the postseason.
Well, yeah, it was a good feel, especially for our younger guys who were playing varsity ball for the first year. For them to get an opportunity to play in the district tournament, and you know, well enough to beat a pretty decent team in Coldwater that night.
We had Lee Campbell Jr. had 19 points to lead you guys, and Braylon McCoy had 13, and you knew that if you got that win, you'd be facing Lori Norix in the district final. Give the guys a little bit of incentive to get past Coldwater, because I think they probably wanted another shot at Lori Norix. Was that the feeling in the locker room there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We tried to take it one game at a time, realizing that we had to win in order to continue to play. But looking a little forward to, if we got through the Coldwater game successfully, that we would have, you know, a third shot at, you know, trying to beat Lloyd Norix, who had already beaten us twice this year.
And you got that chance. Lloyd Norix ended up beating Sturgis in their district semifinal, so it ended up matching up Battle Creek Central and Lloyd Norix in the district championship game. Like you mentioned, a team that you played twice during the year. The second time was a tight one, a 5-point loss to Norix at their place. And on a Saturday afternoon, which is always a tough way to play. But so in this Lloyd Norix game on Friday night last night, it was close most of the way, and your young guys came out to battle, down only 4 at halftime, 32-28, and still in the game at the end of the third quarter, down 49-43. How'd you like how you guys started that game and battled early?
Oh, we're real pleased, Bill. You know, the stakes were high. It was a game that both teams, I think, were you know, pretty eager to get out and play it. We did have a decent start, actually a real good start to the game. We played them really close. As you say, halftime only down by 4. At the end of the third, we're only down by 6. So we played a real good 3 quarters, real competitive, real energized, focused. And once again, being as young as we were this year, it was good to see late here in the season and in the tournament that we had what it took to play hard and keep ourselves in the game and actually make a real close game in that game last night against Lloyd Norris.
And that's kind of the takeaway from this a little bit. That young team, and then they got a little taste of that victory in the semifinals and saw some success in those first three quarters. And then you hit the fourth quarter, and Lloyd Norris gets up gets a couple easy baskets, and then they get up. So you guys have to react to that situation, and Lloyd Norris maybe having a little bit of a veteran group there, and you guys being a little young. And do you think that played into a little bit? Once they got up a little bit, it kind of snowballed from there?
Yeah, I think we played three really good quarters and got into the fourth quarter. They were a little stronger in getting to where they needed to get to. A little more experience, a lot more experience they had, playing down the stretch, closing out games. In our fourth quarter, we just kind of gave out of gas. So to see that we missed like 6 out of 7 free throws that we had in the fourth quarter, and you can't be in a close game and win a close game down the stretch if you're not making free throws. So I think that gallant effort for 3 quarters and just couldn't finish the game in the fourth quarter strong enough, in which Lloyd Norris did.
And we mentioned this before. You started 2 freshmen and 2 sophomores most of the season. Freshman Damani Spraggins led you last night with 14. Sophomore Lee Campbell Jr. had 12. And you end the season at 10-11, but get to the district championship game with a young group. You have other freshmen that were playing in the rotation with you as well. And that young group got through this season unscathed. You more than doubled your win total from the year before, and these guys who are playing, a lot of them in middle school last year, come out and play so well this year. That has a lot to build on for this year, and it gives you a lot of excitement despite what happened last night. Is that right?
Oh, you're absolutely right, Bill. To have the young guys be able to play as much as we were able to get them out on the court this season, to get them a taste of varsity ball, the speed of the game, the intensity of the game, the physicality of the game is so much different than playing 8th grade basketball in middle school. So it was a learning experience for us, one in which we experienced, quite a bit of success considering the makeup of the team. So we feel pretty good about what we were able to do this season, and looking forward to the off season and working to improve our skill sets and our bodies and minds. So we're feeling good and looking forward to the summer off season workouts.
Did you feel that a little bit in the locker room afterwards? So often, and we just talked to Coach Wickman about that, you have a bunch of seniors that are, and you had a couple of seniors that were looking at their last game, but maybe there was a little bit of a anxiousness to want to get ready for next year already with your young group, knowing what they had already done and looking forward to what the future might hold for them.
Yeah, well, I think most of the looking forward and excitement to get in the gym and work to get better came from the coaches. The guys were pretty disappointed in the outcome of the game, knowing that they didn't play as well as we would hope and didn't play well enough to win. So there was more discouragement on the guys' part. A couple of seniors did a good job of, commending the young guys and encouraging them to look to the future and to work hard. The 9th graders didn't know much more to do other than to feel bad about the loss. So, a lot of encouragement from the coaches. The couple of seniors that were on the team did a good job of encouraging the younger guys as well.
And like we said, that ends the season at 10-11, a nice record considering what you had coming back. And we will be talking next week in our final show about what you have coming back next year and say goodbye to some of those seniors and wrap up the whole season on what was going down and have a lot of excitement in the future with Battle Creek Central and the future is bright. Is that your kind of takeaway after last night?
Future is definitely bright, Bill. Yeah, without a doubt, we feel good about where we're headed and look forward to the future.
All right, congrats, Coach, on that. And we'll look forward to chatting with you next week to wrap up the season. This has been Coach's Corner this Saturday. We'll have our final Coach's Corner next Saturday at 9 o'clock on WBCK 95.3 FM.
I'm Sherry Harris, owner of LifeSource Water. Your tap water isn't as clean as you think. City water is full of contaminants, including chlorine that cities use to treat it. At LifeSource, we believe your water should support your family's health. Our whole house system delivers filtered water from every tap, even your showers. For over 40 years, we've proudly built every system right here in the USA. Call our factory today at 1-800-WATER-99 or visit lifesourcewater.com.
Warranty limitations apply.